I took the night shift because nothing ever happens after midnight. That's what I told myself, anyway. I'd been saying it for years, like a line you repeat until it feels true. The place was a 24-hour storage facility off the highway. Rows of metal doors. Long concrete lanes. Fluorescent lights that buzzed like they were tired of being on. My job was to sit in a small office near the gate, watch the cameras, log license plates, and unlock units for people who forgot their codes. Mostly, though, I just sat there. Coffee going cold. Radio turned down low. Waiting for morning. I worked alone. That was the deal. One person per shift. Day people didn't like nights. Nights didn't like people. It worked out. After midnight, it usually went dead quiet. No cars. No footsteps. Just the hum of the building and the ticking clock above the desk. A cheap wall clock, white face, black hands. I used to watch it move just to stay awake. The first thing I noticed wasn't scary. It was small. The clock would stop. Not break. Not die. Just stop. The second hand would freeze in place, like it forgot what it was supposed to do. I'd notice because the room felt off. Like time wasn't moving right. I'd look up, see the clock stuck, and wait. After a while, sometimes a few seconds, sometimes longer, it would start again. Like nothing happened. I figured it was cheap. Batteries. Temperature. I didn't think much about it. Then I noticed it happened a lot. Sometimes it stopped at the same minute every night. Sometimes it didn't. Once, I swear it stopped for almost 10 minutes. I only noticed because my coffee went cold and the radio song never ended. Then everything jumped forward at once. The clock. The song. My phone updated like it had just remembered where it was. I told myself it was normal. Old building. Bad wiring. The cameras were the next thing. There were 16 of them. Black and white feeds on a split screen. I'd gotten used to how they looked. Which angles caught glare? Which ones flickered? One camera watched the back row near the fence. That one always leaned a little to the left. I knew because the fence post cut the frame weird. One night, it wasn't leaning. It was straight. Perfectly centered. The fence post right where it should be. I stared at it longer than I meant to. I even pulled up the maintenance log to see if anyone had worked on it. No notes. No visits. I hadn't touched it. I couldn't reach it without a ladder. The next night, it was leaning again. Further than before. Like someone had nudged it too far and left it that way. I didn't report it. I didn't know why. It just didn't feel like something I needed to explain. Doors started doing their own thing after that. Storage doors have heavy locks. Steel. Loud when you open them. I did a walkthrough every 2 hours, checking rows, making sure everything was shut. I'm sure of that. I liked routines. They made the night go faster. But I'd come back from a walk and see one unit open. Not wide. Just a few inches. Enough to notice the darkness inside. I'd check the log. No access code used. No customer signed in. I'd close it, lock it, tug on it to be sure. Then I'd write it down. Unit secure. An hour later, same unit. Open again. I changed the lock once. Still happened. The cameras never showed it opening. One frame it was shut. Next frame, it wasn't. Around then, the car started passing by. A dark sedan. Couldn't tell the color on the cameras. No plates I could read. It would drive past the gate slow, headlights off, then circle back an hour later. Same speed. Same path. Never came in. Never stopped. I logged it at first. Time. Direction. Notes. After a week, the log was full of the same entry. Same handwriting. Same calm words. It didn't feel worth it anymore. I started recognizing the sound of its tires before I saw it. A low roll on gravel. I'd look up from my desk without thinking, already knowing it would be there. Then there was the man. He showed up one night around 3. That hour when everything feels thin. He stood near the vending machines by the restroom. Just stood there. Facing the wall. Hands at his sides. He didn't look at the cameras. Didn't look at the office. I watched him on the screen for a long time. Waiting for him to move. He didn't. I got up, walked halfway down the hall, and cleared my throat. Asked if he needed help. He didn't turn. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't get closer. I just waited. After a while, I went back to the office. When I checked the camera again, he was gone. No door opened. No footsteps. Just gone. He came back the next night. Same spot. Same posture. Never spoke. Never moved while I watched. If I looked away, even for a second, he'd be gone when I looked back. I stopped getting up to check. It felt pointless. The clocks kept stopping. The cameras kept shifting. Doors kept unlocking themselves. The car kept passing by. The man kept standing there. No one else noticed. Day shift joked about how quiet nights must be. Management said nothing in the logs looked unusual. When I tried to explain, the words sounded wrong out loud. Too thin. Like they didn't belong to anything real. I started feeling tired all the time. Not sleepy. Just worn down. Like the night was slowly pressing on me. I didn't quit right away. I just started counting the minutes until morning. And sometimes, the clock wouldn't move at all. By the second month, the nights stopped feeling separate. They blended together into one long shift that never really ended. I'd go home after sunrise, sleep a few hours, wake up still feeling like I was sitting at that desk. Like I'd never fully left. The hum of the lights followed me. Even in my apartment, I'd catch myself listening for it. At work, I stopped trusting the clock. I still looked at it, but I didn't believe it. I'd check my phone instead. Then I stopped trusting that too. Sometimes my phone would say it was 2:14. The wall clock would say 1:52. The computer system would log entries at times that didn't line up with either. None of them were consistent. None of them were wrong enough to argue with. It felt like the night was stretching itself out. Pulling time thinner. I kept doing my rounds. That part mattered to me. Walking helped. The sound of my shoes on concrete was grounding. I'd walk past the rows of metal doors, all painted the same dull beige, each with a number stenciled on it. The numbers blurred after a while. I'd have to stop and focus just to read them. Sometimes I'd notice doors I knew I'd already checked. Not open. Not unlocked. Just warm. Metal shouldn't feel warm at 3 in the morning. Especially not in winter. But a few of them did. I'd rest my palm against the door, feel heat on the other side, like something had been there recently. Like it had just stepped away. I never opened those units. I don't know why. I just didn't. The cameras started lagging in strange ways. Not freezing. Not cutting out. Just repeating things. I'd watch a car pass through frame 12, then 5 minutes later see the same car pass again. Same angle. Same timing. Same shadow. Like the footage was looping. But when I checked the timestamp, it showed the current time. Always current. Always now. Once, I watched myself walk past a camera. I remember that one clearly because I wasn't moving at the time. I was sitting at the desk, drinking stale coffee, staring at the screens. On camera 7, the one near unit row C, I saw my own back. Same jacket. Same slow walk. Same slight limp in my left leg. The version of me on the screen stopped in front of a door and stood there. I waited for him to turn around. He didn't. I switched the camera view off. When I turned it back on, the hallway was empty. I didn't write that down. I didn't write much after that. The man by the vending machine started appearing earlier. Not just at 3. Sometimes at 1. Sometimes just after midnight. Always the same spot. Always facing the wall. The machines didn't light up when he stood there. The soda buttons stayed dark, like they didn't know he was there. One night, I noticed something new. His reflection. The security cameras weren't great quality, but the floor near the vending machines was polished concrete. Usually it showed faint reflections. Light. Movement. When he stood there, there was no reflection under him. The wall clock stopped at 2:33 that night. I know because I kept staring at it, waiting for it to start again. It didn't. The second hand stayed stuck. The hum of the lights dipped low, then came back. My radio cut to static. Then silence. I sat there in the quiet, not moving. On the cameras, the man turned his head. Just a little. Not enough to see his face. Just enough to know he was aware of something. Of me. Of the office. Of the watching. I didn't feel scared. Not exactly. It was more like when you realize you've been holding your breath without noticing. The clock started again at 2:33. Not 2:34. Not later. Just started over. Same minute. Same second. After that, the car started coming closer. It didn't just pass the gate anymore. It slowed. It stopped at the entrance sometimes. Headlights still off. Just a dark shape sitting there. Waiting. I could see the outline of someone in the driver's seat. Never moved. Never got out. Once, it stayed there for the entire shift. Morning came. Sunlight hit the lot. The car was gone. No tire marks. No log entry. Nothing. I asked the day guy if he'd seen it when he came in. He shook his head. Said the lot looked empty as always. Made a joke about me watching too many horror movies. I laughed at the right time. That felt important. The unlocked doors spread. It wasn't just one unit anymore. It was several. Always different. Always ones I'd checked. Sometimes I'd hear the sound of a lock clicking somewhere down the row. Soft. Metallic. Like someone testing it. I never saw anyone. I stopped doing full rounds. I told myself it was temporary. Just until I caught up on sleep. The man stopped disappearing when I looked away. One night, I looked down to write a time on a scrap of paper. When I looked back up at the screen, he was still there. Same place. Same stance. I waited. He waited too. We stayed like that for a long time. Long enough that the idea of time felt loose again. Like it could go either way. Eventually, he stepped away from the wall. Not toward me. Not toward the door. Just sideways. Out of frame. Slow. Calm. Like he'd done it 1,000 times before. The vending machine lights flickered on after he left. I didn't touch them. That was the night I realized something small and heavy at the same time. The night shift wasn't quiet because nothing happened. It was quiet because whatever was happening didn't need noise anymore. I stayed until morning. But I didn't sit down once. When the sun came up, I felt like I'd been standing there all night, even when I knew I hadn't. And when I locked the office and walked to my car, I noticed my reflection in the glass. For a second, it didn't move when I did. Then it caught up. I didn't go back the next night. I didn't quit right away. I told myself I was just taking a night off. Calling in sick. Needing sleep. Something normal. I left a message on the office line that morning, voice flat, said I hadn't slept and needed one night to reset. Nobody questioned it. They never did. That day, I tried to sleep. I closed the curtains. Turned my phone face down. Laid in bed and waited for my body to shut off. It didn't. My eyes stayed open. The ceiling fan clicked once every rotation. I counted it without meaning to. Every fourth click felt longer than the rest. At some point, I realized I was listening for the hum. The storage facility hum. The low, steady vibration of lights that never turned off. When I didn't hear it, my chest felt tight. Like something important was missing. Like silence was wrong. I must have drifted off eventually, because I dreamed I was sitting at the desk again. Same chair. Same coffee ring on the wood. Same split screen of cameras. In the dream, the clock wasn't on the wall. It was on the desk. Right in front of me. Bigger than it should have been. The second hand wasn't moving, but I could hear it ticking anyway. Loud. Too loud for a cheap clock. I woke up with my heart steady, not racing. Just awake. My phone said it was 2:33 a.m. I didn't go back to sleep. That night, I stayed home. The next night too. Management didn't push. They left a voicemail asking when I'd be back. I didn't return it. I kept telling myself I just needed more time. That once the feeling wore off, I'd be fine. It didn't wear off. At night, my apartment felt too open. Too unlocked. I'd get up and check the door, make sure the deadbolt was set. Sometimes I'd check twice. The door was always locked. Still, I'd find it slightly open in the morning. Not wide. Just enough that light came through the crack. I blamed myself. Sleepwalking. Forgetfulness. Stress. My clock started acting up at home. The microwave clock lost minutes. The alarm clock reset itself. My phone froze at random times, screen unresponsive, then jumped ahead. Always forward. Never back. Once, while brushing my teeth, I looked at the mirror and felt that same delay. Like my reflection was half a second behind me. I tilted my head slowly, watching it follow. It caught up eventually. I stopped looking too hard. On the third night, I heard a car outside. Slow tires on asphalt. No headlights. I watched from behind the curtain. A dark sedan rolled past my building, then turned the corner. A few minutes later, it came back the other way. Same speed. Same sound. I didn't move. I just stood there, holding the curtain, listening. It passed again an hour later. I checked the time. 2:33. That's when I realized something else. I missed it. Not the fear. Not the standing man. Not the doors. The routine. The sitting. The watching. The way the night had a shape when I was there. At home, time felt loose. Unmanaged. Like it didn't know what to do with itself. I went back the next night. I told myself it was temporary. Just to close things properly. To hand in my badge. To prove to myself that it was over. The gate opened like it always had. The office smelled the same. Dust and burnt coffee. The wall clock was back on the wall. It said 11:58. I sat down. The cameras came on one by one. 16 quiet rectangles. Empty rows. No car. No man. For a while, nothing happened. I felt calmer than I had in days. Like my body recognized the place before my mind did. I leaned back. Let the hum settle in. It felt familiar. Almost comforting. At midnight, the clock stopped. I didn't look up right away. I knew it had. I felt it. That subtle shift, like the room had leaned. On camera 12, the sedan rolled past the gate. On camera 3, a storage door eased open. On camera 7, the hallway near row C showed movement. Me. Again. This time, I stood up. I walked the halls slowly, just like the camera version had. I didn't rush. I didn't feel like I needed to. I stopped at the same door the other me had stopped at before. The metal was warm. I put my ear against it. There was no sound. No breathing. No movement. Just the faint hum, deeper now, like it was coming from inside the unit. Behind me, I heard the vending machine click on. I didn't turn around. The wall clock started again. I checked it later. It was still 2:33. I finished the shift. Morning came like it always did. Light spilled over the lot. Everything looked ordinary. Clean. Empty. The day guy showed up, nodded at me, said nothing was out of place. I handed in my badge. I didn't explain. I don't work nights anymore. Sometimes, when I wake up in the dark, I feel like I'm late for something. Like I'm supposed to be sitting somewhere, watching something, making sure it stays where it belongs. And sometimes, when I check the time, it's 2:33. After I left, the nights didn't give me back what they took. That's the best way I can explain it. Daytime worked fine. I could talk to people. Go to the store. Answer messages. Smile when it made sense. Nothing followed me there. The sun flattened everything. Made it manageable. But once it got late, the edges came back. I took a day job at a warehouse. Loading pallets. Loud place. Constant movement. Forklifts beeping. Radios playing the same songs on repeat. I figured noise would help. And it did. While I was there, I didn't think about the storage facility at all. I still woke up at night. Always the same way. No dream ending. No sudden fear. Just eyes open, staring into the dark, already aware of the room. Like I'd never really fallen asleep. Like someone had just turned the lights off without warning me. I stopped checking the time. That part was intentional. I didn't want to see the number. I didn't want to give it shape. I kept my phone face down. Took the batteries out of the alarm clock. Covered the microwave display with tape. Still, I knew. There's a way your body knows when something is supposed to happen. Not because it's happening. Just because it's expected. That feeling settled in my chest every night, right around when it used to. I started hearing the hum again. Not loud. Barely there. Like a refrigerator running in another apartment. Like power lines somewhere far away. I'd sit up in bed and hold my breath, trying to trace it. It never came from a clear direction. It just existed. I told myself it was tinnitus. Stress. Lack of sleep. Then my door did it again. I locked it every night. I made that a rule. Deadbolt. Handle check. Shoulder against the wood. Solid. Closed. In the morning, it would be cracked open. Not wide enough for someone to walk through. Not enough to set off panic. Just enough to notice. Enough to make me stop in the hallway and stare at it for a long second before moving. Nothing was missing. Nothing was moved. Once, I put a strip of tape across the doorframe. A clean line from door to wall. When I woke up, the tape was torn neatly down the middle. Like someone had opened the door slowly, carefully, and closed it again. I didn't try that twice. The car showed up again a week later. I was walking home from a late grocery run. Street lights humming overhead. Bags cutting into my fingers. I heard tires behind me and already knew what it would be. No headlights. Same slow roll. Same distance. It didn't pass me. It matched my pace. Stayed just behind, like it was escorting me. I stopped walking. It stopped too. I didn't turn around. I waited. My heart didn't race. That was the part that bothered me later. It felt normal. Familiar. After a while, the car rolled forward, past me, and turned the corner. I stood there until the sound faded completely. That night, the hum was louder. I started seeing the man again. Not clearly. Not directly. He showed up in reflections. Dark shapes in glass. A still figure at the far end of a hallway that wasn't long enough to hold him. If I focused on him, he wasn't there. If I didn't, I felt watched. He never spoke. Neither did I. I tried staying awake through the night. Coffee. TV. Lights on. It didn't matter. Somewhere between midnight and morning, the room would tilt. My thoughts would slow. The hum would settle in like it belonged. One night, I gave up and looked at the time. 2:33. I sat on the edge of my bed and waited. Nothing dramatic happened. No movement. No sound beyond the hum. That was the worst part. It felt like I was missing something important. Like the night was waiting for me to do my part and I wasn't. The next day, I drove past the storage facility without meaning to. I don't know how I ended up on that road. Muscle memory, maybe. The sign was still there. Same faded logo. Same empty lot. Everything looked normal. Open. Quiet. I pulled over and sat in the car. For a second, I thought about going in. Just to look. Just to confirm it was still real. Still a place. I didn't. As I drove away, I checked the rearview mirror. For a moment, my reflection didn't move with me. Then it did. That night, the hum was gone. The silence was worse. I don't know if I left the night shift, or if it left me. I just know that sometimes, when everything is very still, it feels like something is waiting for me to come back. I tried changing my schedule. That sounds small, but it mattered to me. I started going to bed earlier. I stopped staying up late on purpose. I filled my evenings with things that had clear endings. Dishes. Showers. Short shows I'd already seen. Anything that didn't leave space. It worked for a little while. Sleep came easier, but it wasn't deep. It felt thin. Like laying under a blanket that didn't quite cover everything. I'd wake up knowing I'd slept, but not feeling rested. Like my body had stayed somewhere else the whole time. The hum didn't come back right away. Instead, there was a new quiet. Not peaceful. Just empty. The kind of silence that feels unfinished. Like a sentence that stops before the last word. I started noticing clocks again. Not just the time. The way they behaved. The way seconds didn't feel even. I'd watch a digital clock change and feel like some numbers stayed longer than others. Like they were heavier. 2:33 stopped showing up all the time. That worried me more than when it did. The car stopped passing my building. The man stopped appearing in reflections. My door stayed shut in the mornings. Everything lined up enough that I almost believed it was over. Almost. Then I got a call from an unknown number just after midnight. I didn't answer it. I let it ring out. No voicemail. The next night, the same number. Same time. Still no message. On the third night, I answered. There was no sound on the line. No breathing. No static. Just open space. Like the call itself was the point. I said hello once. Quietly. I don't know why. The line stayed open for exactly 1 minute. Then it disconnected. My phone said the call lasted 60 seconds. It felt longer. After that, the dreams came back. Not the storage facility. Not clearly. Just pieces. Long hallways that didn't lead anywhere. Doors without numbers. Cameras that followed me instead of the other way around. In one dream, I was sitting at the desk again, but the office was bigger. Too big. The walls were far apart. The screens were spread across them, repeating the same empty frame over and over. I woke up with my jaw clenched and my hands resting on my thighs, like I'd been sitting upright all night. One morning, I found a badge on my kitchen counter. Gray plastic. Scratched. My name printed wrong. One letter off. I stared at it for a long time. I don't remember bringing it home. I didn't throw it away. I put it in a drawer and told myself I'd deal with it later. Later never really comes. The hum came back a few nights after that. Softer than before. Almost polite. Like it was checking to see if it was still allowed. I didn't fight it. That was new. I just lay there and listened. Let it settle into the room. It felt familiar in a way I didn't like admitting. Like a routine I'd forgotten I missed. The call came again. Same number. Same time. I answered without thinking. This time, there was a sound. Not a voice. Not words. Just a low mechanical click. The kind you hear when a lock finishes turning. Slow. Final. Then the line went dead. That night, I dreamed I was walking the rows again. Not working. Just moving. The doors were all open now. Every single one. Inside them was nothing I could see. Just dark. Deep. Waiting. At the end of the row, the man stood by the vending machines. This time, he was facing me. I still couldn't see his face. I woke up before he moved. The next day at work, my supervisor asked if I'd ever done night shifts before. I told him no. He nodded like that explained something. That evening, I found myself sitting in my car long after I got home. Engine off. Lights out. Just sitting there, watching the building across the street. Watching windows go dark one by one. It felt like waiting. I checked the time on the dashboard. 2:33. The badge felt heavy in my pocket. I didn't remember putting it there. I think that's when I understood something I'd been avoiding. The night shift didn't belong to the building. It belonged to the hours. And those hours hadn't stopped needing someone to sit with them. I didn't go back to the storage facility. That part is true. I never walked through that gate again. I never sat in that chair. I never logged another license plate or listened to that radio fade in and out. But the nights didn't care about the location. They followed the hours. After the badge showed up in my pocket, I stopped pretending I didn't know what it meant. I didn't panic. I didn't throw it away. I just left it where it was and went on with my days. That's how I handled things by then. Acknowledging without reacting. Letting the feeling pass through me like weather. Work stayed normal. Loud. Bright. Predictable. Evenings stretched longer. I stopped trying to sleep early. It felt dishonest somehow. Like showing up to a shift I wasn't scheduled for. I'd sit on the couch with the lights low, TV on mute, just letting the hours move the way they wanted to. I started noticing how the world thinned out after midnight. Not disappeared. Just simplified. Traffic faded. Sirens stopped. Buildings settled. Even the city felt like it was holding its breath. That was when the hum usually came back. Not always. But often enough that I didn't question it anymore. When it was there, I felt steadier. I didn't like that about myself. One night, I found myself standing in my hallway without remembering getting up. No fear. No confusion. Just standing there, facing the front door. It was locked. I knew that without checking. I rested my hand on the door anyway. The metal felt warm. I stayed like that for a long time. Long enough that the idea of time felt optional again. When I finally stepped back, the hum faded slightly, like it was satisfied. I started sitting by my window at night. Not watching for anything specific. Just looking out. Counting dark windows. Watching cars pass without headlights, without urgency. Sometimes I'd see the sedan. Sometimes I wouldn't. It didn't matter. I never waved. I never turned away. At some point, I stopped checking the time entirely. The numbers had lost their meaning. I could feel where I was in the night without them. I knew when it was close. When things aligned. When the quiet settled into its deeper shape. The man showed up less often. When he did, it was always in the same way. Reflections. Glass. Darkened screens. He never moved closer. Never farther. Just present enough to be acknowledged. I think he was doing the same job I was. I think he'd been there longer. One night, the hum didn't come from the walls. It came from me. Not loudly. Just a low vibration in my chest. Like breathing in reverse. I sat with it, hands folded, eyes half closed, and let the night finish doing whatever it needed to do. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember waking up either. Morning happened without asking. After that, things stabilized. That's the word I'd use. Not better. Not worse. Just stable. The door stopped opening on its own. The clocks behaved. The car stopped circling. The calls stopped coming. But the hours between midnight and morning still felt occupied. Like someone was there. Sometimes, when I'm awake at night, I sit quietly and listen. I don't watch screens. I don't move around. I just stay present. Let the silence pass through me instead of pressing against me. It feels correct. I don't tell people about this. There's nothing to explain. No lesson. No warning. Just a thing that happened and keeps happening, quietly, without needing permission. I don't work nights anymore. But I still keep them company. And if you ever find yourself awake at the same time every night, feeling calm but slightly off, like you're supposed to be somewhere else, you're not alone. Someone's always sitting with the hours. Even if you don't see them.